It is a name many of us know, And we see it on small bottles in our medicine cabinets. We hear it on the evening news. We read about it in headlines that shape our world. Pfizer. For millions, it represents a promise. The promise of healing, of longer life, a defense against diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries. This company is a titan of the pharmaceutical industry. Its influence stretches from the smallest clinics in developing nations to the highest corridors of power in global capitals. It is a symbol of modern medicine's incredible power to innovate and to save lives. But that is only one part of the story. Behind the familiar blue logo lies a complex system, a system of profit, power, and influence that raises fundamental questions about how our world works. How does a company dedicated to health also become one of the most powerful corporate forces on the planet? What happens when the drive for profit intersects with the basic human need for medicine? These are not simple questions with simple answers. They lead us into a maze of patents, pricing strategies, and political maneuvering. To understand Pfizer is to understand the very architecture of modern healthcare. This is not a story of heroes and villains. It is an investigation into a system. We will examine the incentives that drive a global pharmaceutical giant. We will look at the rules, both written and unwritten, that govern the discovery, pricing, and distribution of the medicines we all depend on. This journey will take us back more than 170 years to the company's humble beginnings. It will lead us through boardrooms, laboratories, and courtrooms. We will uncover how decisions made in these places affect the health and financial well-being of people everywhere. Our goal is to pull back the curtain. We will explore how a single company can exemplify an entire industry. Through the lens of Pfizer, we will investigate the blockbuster drug model that has defined pharmaceuticals for decades. We will dissect the controversies over drug pricing that have sparked public outrage and political debate. And we will trace the vast network of influence that shapes healthcare policy in Washington and beyond. This is not just the story of one company. It is the story of the system that shapes our health. To understand the system, we must follow the money. The pharmaceutical industry operates on a scale that is difficult to comprehend. Global revenues are measured in the trillions of dollars. At the heart of this financial engine is the patent. A patent grants a company exclusive rights to sell a drug it has developed, typically for 20 years. This period of exclusivity is designed to reward innovation. It allows companies to recoup the massive costs of research and development. For a company like Pfizer, a successful patented drug can generate tens of billions of dollars in revenue. This model creates what the industry calls blockbuster drugs. These are the financial pillars that support the entire enterprise. The profits from a single blockbuster can fund the search for the next one. They can also fuel massive marketing campaigns. They can also pay for shareholder dividends. They can also finance a powerful lobbying presence to protect the company's interests. This cycle of investment, this cycle of innovation, this cycle of profit has delivered incredible medical breakthroughs. But it also creates immense pressure to maintain profitability, sometimes leading to strategies that push ethical and legal boundaries. Our investigation will examine this financial architecture in detail. We will look at how patents are not just a reward for invention, but a strategic tool for market control. We will explore how companies can extend their monopolies through subtle changes and new patents on old drugs, a practice known as evergreening. We will also analyze the staggering disconnect between the cost of manufacturing a pill and the price tag it carries for patients and healthcare systems. The money trail reveals a story of incentives, and those incentives explain so much about the industry's behavior. This journey is critical because the stakes could not be higher. The decisions made within this system have life or death consequences. They determine who gets access to cutting-edge treatments and who is left behind. They influence the financial stability of families and entire nations. By understanding the financial incentives, the legal structures, and the political influence that define the pharmaceutical world, we can begin to ask more informed questions. Questions about fairness, access, and whether the current system is truly serving the public good. The story of Pfizer begins not in a modern laboratory, but in a small brick building in Brooklyn, New York. It was 1849. The city was a bustling hub of commerce and immigration. Two German cousins, Charles Pfizer and Charles Erhardt, saw an opportunity. Pfizer was a trained chemist. Erhardt was a confectioner. They combined their skills to solve a common medical problem. Many medicines at the time were bitter and difficult for patients, especially children, to take. Their first product was a new form of santonin, a treatment for parasitic worms. Erhardt used his candy-making expertise to blend the foul-tasting chemical into a palatable toffee-flavored cone. It was an immediate success. This first innovation set the course for the young company. It was not a discovery of a new molecule, but a refinement. It was about making medicine better, more accessible, more commercially viable. They named their venture Charles Pfizer and Company. Their focus was on fine chemicals, not pharmaceuticals as we know them today. They produced chemicals like iodine, boric acid, and cream of tartar, supplying them to the growing food, beverage, and medicine industries across the United States. The company built its reputation on quality and purity. It was a business built on chemistry, precision, and finding a market need. In 1880, they began mass-producing citric acid. Previously, it was derived from lemons and limes imported from Italy, making it expensive and subject to supply disruptions. Pfizer's chemists developed a revolutionary fermentation process using sugar and mold. This breakthrough made citric acid affordable and widely available, securing the company's dominance in the market for decades. This early history reveals the DNA of the future corporation. It shows a company focused on industrial-scale production. It highlights a talent for using chemistry to solve practical problems and control a market. The switch to fermentation for citric acid was a pivotal moment. It demonstrated Pfizer's ability to innovate not just products, but processes. It was a move from relying on natural sources to mastering industrial biotechnology. This expertise in fermentation would become the company's secret weapon, positioning it perfectly for the revolutionary changes that were coming in the 20th century. The small Brooklyn chemical firm was quietly laying the groundwork for a global empire. The first half of the 20th century brought World War I, World War II. These global conflicts transformed industries, and Pfizer was no exception. During World War I, its expertise in citric acid production became a strategic asset for the Allied forces. The British blockade had cut off imports of citrates from Italy, which were needed for painkillers and other medicines. But it was the Second World War that would fundamentally change the company's destiny. The world was in desperate need of a new weapon, not for fighting, but for healing. That weapon was penicillin. Alexander Fleming had discovered the antibiotic in 1928, but mass-producing it seemed impossible. In 1941, they brought their challenge to the United States. The U.S. government launched a major initiative to produce penicillin on an industrial scale. Pfizer, with its decades of experience in large-scale fermentation technology from its work on citric acid, saw the opportunity. The company took a massive gamble, dedicating its resources to solving the penicillin production puzzle. It was a high-stakes race against time. Pfizer President John Smith Jr. personally promised President Roosevelt that the company would succeed. They invested their own capital, buying new equipment, converting their deep-tank fermentation vats. Their chemists worked tirelessly, experimenting with different strains of mold and refining the production process. In 1944, their gamble paid off. Pfizer perfected a method of deep-tank fermentation that could produce vast quantities of penicillin. The company went from being a contributor to the penicillin effort to its largest single producer. More than half of the penicillin that went ashore with soldiers on D-Day was made by Pfizer. This moment was the company's great pivot. It marked its transition from a fine chemical manufacturer to a true pharmaceutical powerhouse. After the war, Pfizer was left with massive production capacity and unparalleled expertise in creating antibiotics. The company decided not to return to simply being a bulk supplier. Instead, it began to market its own branded antibiotic, terramycin, in 1950. This was a critical strategic shift. For the first time, Pfizer was not just making the ingredients, it was making the final medicine and selling it directly to doctors and hospitals under its own name. The modern Pfizer was born. With the success of terramycin, Pfizer embarked on a new, aggressive strategy: global expansion. The post-war world was rebuilding, and the demand for modern medicine was universal. In the 1950s, the company began establishing a presence in country after country: Belgium, Brazil, Canada, United Kingdom. This was more than just exporting products. Pfizer was building a physical presence, with sales teams, manufacturing plants, and research facilities around the globe. The company established its own dedicated research and development division in the 1950s. Its scientists began working to discover new drugs. This internal R&D engine was complemented by a shrewd strategy of mergers and acquisitions. Building from within and buying from without allowed the company to grow its product pipeline rapidly. One of the most significant acquisitions came in the year 2000. Pfizer merged with Warner Lambert in a massive deal valued at over $90 billion. It was about acquiring a specific blockbuster drug, Lipitor. Lipitor would become the best-selling drug in pharmaceutical history. The merger instantly made Pfizer the largest drug company in the world. It was a masterclass in corporate strategy. The deal solidified Pfizer's commitment to the blockbuster model. In 2003, Pfizer acquired Pharmacia for $60 billion. That deal brought drugs like Celebrex into the fold. By the early 21st century, the company, founded by two cousins in a small Brooklyn building, had become a global giant. Industrial chemistry, antibiotics, aggressive global expansion, and acquiring blockbuster drugs. The system was in place. The stage was now set for the immense profits, power, and controversies that would come to define Pfizer in the modern era. The modern pharmaceutical industry is built on a single, powerful idea: the blockbuster drug. It is a product that achieves spectacular commercial success, typically generating over $1 billion in annual sales. For a company like Pfizer, developing a blockbuster is like striking gold. It creates a revenue stream so vast that it can fund the entire company's operations, research into new medicines, global marketing campaigns, handsome returns for shareholders. At the heart of the blockbuster model is the patent. In pharma, it gives exclusive rights to manufacture and sell a new drug for 20 years from filing. This 20-year window is the gold rush. During this time, the company can set price without direct competition. It's meant to recoup massive R&D investment. Those costs can exceed $1 billion for a single new drug. The system creates a powerful incentive for innovation. Enormous profit potential drives risky, long-term research that might lead to breakthroughs for cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's. Without that temporary monopoly, many life-saving drugs might never be developed. The cost of failure is high. For every successful drug, thousands of candidates fail. Profits from one blockbuster, like Pfizer's Lipitor, must cover the costs of many dead ends. But the 20-year clock also creates immense pressure. As soon as a patent is filed, the countdown begins. Much of that time is eaten up by clinical trials and regulatory approval from agencies like the FDA. That process can take 8 to 12 years, leaving much less actual market exclusivity. The ticking clock forces companies to move with speed and strategic precision. Once approved, the goal is to maximize sales fast before patent expiry, and cheaper generics flood the market. The journey of a blockbuster drug from a laboratory concept to a billion-dollar product is a masterclass in strategic planning. The process begins with identifying a significant unmet medical need in a large patient population. The ideal target is a chronic condition that requires long-term treatment, ensuring a steady and predictable market. Once a promising molecule is identified, the long and expensive process of clinical trials begins. This is not just about proving the drug is safe and effective. It is also about gathering the data needed for a powerful marketing message. The launch of a new drug is a carefully orchestrated event. When the drug is finally approved, a massive sales force is deployed. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of sales representatives visit doctors' offices, armed with clinical data, free samples, and persuasive marketing materials. Pfizer's development of the cholesterol drug Lipitor is a textbook example of this strategy. When Lipitor was launched in 1997, there were already several effective cholesterol-lowering drugs on the market. But Pfizer had conducted massive clinical trials designed to prove that Lipitor could lower bad LDL cholesterol more effectively than its rivals. This clear, simple, and powerful marketing message was relentlessly pushed by its enormous sales force. The strategy worked spectacularly. Doctors were persuaded to switch their patients to Lipitor, and it quickly became the best-selling drug in the world, generating over $125 billion in revenue for Pfizer during its patent-protected life. For a company like Pfizer, the end of a patent's life is known as the patent cliff, and, it is a moment of extreme financial peril. When the 20-year monopoly expires, other companies are legally allowed to produce and sell generic versions of the drug. Because generic manufacturers do not have to bear the costs of research and development, they can sell their versions for a fraction of the price. It is common for the price of a drug to fall by as much as 80% or 90% within a year of generic entry. To delay this cliff for as long as possible, pharmaceutical companies have developed a range of defensive strategies. One of the most common is known as evergreening. This involves making small, incremental changes to the original drug and filing new patents on these changes. The company might develop a new extended-release version, combine the drug with another medication into a single pill, or change its method of delivery. Each new patent can create fresh legal hurdles for generic competitors, potentially extending the company's market exclusivity for several more years. These secondary patents build a thicket of legal protection around the original blockbuster, creating a fortress that is difficult for competitors to breach. Pfizer has been a master of this strategy. For many of its most profitable drugs, the company has built complex webs of secondary patents. These patents might cover not just the active ingredient, but the manufacturing process, the specific formulation, or new uses for the drug that were discovered after it was first approved. While each of these patents may be legally valid on its own, their cumulative effect is to create a legal minefield. Generic companies that want to launch a competing product must be prepared for years of expensive litigation as they challenge each of these patents in court. Critics argue that evergreening and patent thickets stifle competition and keep drug prices artificially high for patients and healthcare systems. They contend that these strategies go against the original spirit of the patent system, which was meant to reward genuine innovation, not to perpetuate monopolies through minor tweaks and legal maneuvering. This tension lies at the very core of the debate over modern pharmaceuticals. Once a drug is protected by a patent, a critical question arises: how much should it cost? In the United States, unlike in most other developed nations, the answer is largely determined by one entity: the pharmaceutical company itself. There are no government price controls. The manufacturer has the power to set the launch price at whatever level it believes the market will bear. For Pfizer, this decision is not based on the cost of manufacturing the pill, which is often pennies. Instead, it is a complex calculation involving the perceived value of the drug, the prices of competing treatments, the ability of insurance companies to pay, the ability of government programs to pay, and the ability of patients to pay. Pfizer argues that these prices are necessary to fund the next generation of innovative medicines, life-saving medicines. The company points to the immense risks of drug development. From this perspective, the price reflects not just the single pill, but the entire ecosystem of discovery. It is the price of progress. However, this logic often clashes with the reality faced by patients. A common practice across the industry is to systematically increase the price of a drug year after year, often at a rate far exceeding inflation. One prominent example involves Lyrica, a Pfizer drug used to treat nerve pain and other conditions. After its launch, the list price of Lyrica increased steadily and substantially over many years. The high and rising cost of prescription drugs has not gone unnoticed. Over the past 2 decades, it has become a major source of public anger and political debate. This personal suffering has fueled a powerful public backlash against the pharmaceutical industry, and Pfizer, as one of the largest and most visible players, has often been at the center of the storm. This outrage has echoed through the halls of Congress. Lawmakers from both political parties have held hearings, demanding answers from pharmaceutical executives about their pricing practices. Pfizer's leaders have been called to testify. To protect its business model from political threats, Pfizer invests heavily in influencing the policymaking process in Washington, D.C. The company operates one of the most sophisticated and well-funded lobbying operations in the country. Pfizer spends millions of dollars every year to ensure its voice is heard. Pfizer does not act alone. It is a leading member of powerful industry trade groups, most notably the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, or PHRMA. This organization pools the resources of its member companies to launch massive lobbying and public relations campaigns. The pharmaceutical industry's influence extends far beyond lobbying and campaign donations. It is woven into the very fabric of the Washington establishment through a phenomenon known as the revolving door. These interconnected mechanisms, lobbying, campaign finance, the revolving door, public relations, create a formidable system of influence. It explains why, despite years of public outrage and political promises, fundamental reform has been so difficult to achieve. The pursuit of profit within a highly regulated industry creates a constant tension. Companies are pushed to maximize revenue, but must operate within a complex web of legal and ethical rules. Sometimes lines are crossed. One of the most significant cases occurred in 2009. Pfizer and its subsidiary Pharmacia and Upjohn pleaded guilty to felony charges. They agreed to pay a record-breaking $2.3 billion to resolve criminal and civil liability. The case centered on illegal marketing of several drugs, most notably the painkiller Bextra. The government alleged promotion for off-label uses and dosages, meaning conditions and levels not approved by the FDA. Promoting drugs for unapproved uses is illegal because it circumvents the scientific review process meant to protect patients. This was not an isolated incident. In 2004, a Pfizer subsidiary, Warner Lambert, paid over $430 million to resolve charges related to off-label marketing of Neurontin. Prosecutors said the campaign promoted Neurontin for a wide range of unapproved uses. Do these massive fines actually deter corporate behavior? From one perspective, a penalty of over $2 billion seems like a powerful deterrent. However, another perspective views these fines differently. They're not always punishment that changes behavior. Sometimes they're a calculated cost of doing business. The profit from illegal marketing can far outweigh the eventual penalty. This creates a troubling financial incentive. A company might weigh the risk of getting caught against the potential reward and decide breaking the rules is a gamble worth taking. Pfizer's influence is not confined to the United States. As a global corporation, its decisions on pricing and access impact people in low and middle-income countries. Here, the tension between profit and public health becomes even more stark. In response, Pfizer and other companies have developed programs to improve access. These include tiered pricing, drug donation programs, and partnerships with Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance. One key mechanism is voluntary licensing. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Pfizer agreed a voluntary license with the Medicines Patent Pool that allowed generic manufacturers to produce Paxlovid for 95 low- and middle-income countries. However, these access programs are not without controversy. The tale of two markets persists. This dynamic highlights the fundamental conflict at the heart of the global pharmaceutical system. How can a system driven by market-based incentives adequately serve the health needs of those with the least ability to pay? Our investigation into Pfizer reveals a story that is far larger than one company. It is the story of a system. We have seen how a small chemical firm in Brooklyn grew into a global titan, driven by scientific innovation and strategic business decisions. We have dissected the blockbuster model. This model has undoubtedly delivered life-saving breakthroughs. But this system of rewards has come at a significant cost. We have seen how the imperative to maximize profits during a limited monopoly window leads to high prices, aggressive marketing, and a relentless defense of patent fortresses. We have documented the public backlash against rising costs and the sophisticated system of influence that insulates the industry from fundamental political change. The record of legal settlements shows a recurring pattern of behavior, where staggering fines can come to be seen as a mere cost of doing business. This is not a story of a few bad apples, but of a forest grown from predictable seeds. The case of Pfizer is not an anomaly, it is an archetype. The company's history, its strategies, and its controversies mirror those of the entire pharmaceutical industry. They all operate within the same legal and financial framework. A framework that places the pursuit of shareholder value in direct and often uncomfortable proximity to the public's health. This creates a series of fundamental questions for our society. Is a system that relies so heavily on market-based rewards the most effective way to produce and distribute the medicines we all need? How do we balance the legitimate need to reward innovation with the equally legitimate need for affordability and access? These are the questions that demand a broader examination. Potential paths for reform are debated endlessly. Changes to patent law to curb evergreening, greater transparency in drug pricing, new models for public funding of essential research, more robust mechanisms for ensuring global access to medicine. There are no simple solutions. But understanding the system, its history, its incentives, and its consequences is the essential first step. The story of Pfizer is ultimately a mirror, reflecting a system that we have all helped create and which only we have the power to change.